Part 15. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 142. People on the battlefield don't know that there is a monster in the scene that is under the observation of countless people. They don't know it, but countless viewers in front of the TV are watching this scene. Under the spotlight, the true face of Jia Yan, the big mosquito, was finally revealed to humans. Perhaps no one knows what this represents yet, but in the future, countless people will claim that the scene represents the beginning. Of course, the one that competes with the Japanese state for the word beginning is the Chinese state. The first one to discover traces of the big mosquito was the Chinese state. But no one thought that far right now. Just seeing the live broadcast on the TV, a scene like a science fiction movie appeared. Everyone was dumbfounded and couldn't speak to themselves for a long time. Director, what's going on? What? What was in the picture just now? Monster? How is that possible? On the helicopter's side, it didn't take long for the camera to turn to the gangster's side, before it zoomed up and away from this dangerous place. Due to the warning from the police, the interview helicopter was strictly restricted to a distance of 1 kilometer away from the battlefield for live broadcast. Moreover, there are many children watching this live broadcast, so it's good to stay away. The Japanese TV programs are very harsh, and it is absolutely unacceptable for children to see bloody scenes. So if there is such a scene, the camera will be switched to the live broadcast room and the host over there will take over the screen. I heard that many viewers of the show said that there was a monster scene in the camera, and the TV station was also dubious. When the situation is informed to the side of the scene, the female anchor was sitting in front of the camera. She had clearly heard the communication between the on-site director and the broadcaster, but she still pretended to talk to the host of the TV station's live broadcast room. Then he said in surprise, "What? Is it a monster?" Dear viewers, it is said that many people in front of the TV saw a black monster appearing in the live broadcast just now, but we did not find anything abnormal here. Now we stretch the camera to the gangster again. Please take a look. Are there any monsters? The female anchor pointed into the distance, and the camera once again focused on the hiding place of a group of masked gangsters. But this time, because the lens is too far away, no matter how you zoom in, it will always look blurry. And there is a problem with the angle, no matter how you look for it. No unusual conditions were found. Perhaps you have concluded that the previous monster scene should be an optical phenomenon of the camera. We have not found anything here at the scene, so please be patient. This is just a very common optical phenomenon. This kind of thing is often found in TV shootings. Not only on the female anchor's side, but also in the live broadcast hall on the other side of the camera. Several hosts and some military experts were also present when the cameras switched over. Replay the scene that made the TV station's phone calls explode. Look, everyone, maybe this is the monster everyone is paying attention to. It has just been judged by our professional technicians. This is because the beam of the interview helicopter is shining, causing some reefs to form reflections, and it happens to look like this. As long as you look carefully, you can find that this is just an optical phenomenon. Please also don't be surprised, everyone. Now let's put this matter aside, let's switch the scene to the scene and take a look at the battle between the self-defense forces and the police to jointly suppress bandits. May I ask Professor Xiao Dun from the National Defense University about the current battle situation? The mosquito monster's first appearance in front of the camera was no longer doubtful due to the blurry picture and the TV station's refutation of the rumor. Except for some occult enthusiasts, no one will think that the previous scene is real anymore. Everyone turned their attention to the situation on the battlefield. And just where these people can no longer pay attention, a big dark mosquito quietly walked out from behind a certain reef. Jia Yan walked out of his hiding place, and then observed the helicopter in the distance with compound eyes for a long time. The appearance of this helicopter surprised him a little. He thought it was something belonging to the Japanese military, but after seeing the spotlight on it and using his night vision ability to peek at cameras and other things, he realized that this helicopter actually moved faster than the military and was coming directly. Went to the scene to collect information. Jia Yan didn't know it was a live broadcast and thought it was just a source. I was photographed before, so it shouldn't have been exposed, right? Anyway, we need to move faster, otherwise there will be a military helicopter gunship or something coming later, which will be difficult. Jia Yan's scalp went numb when he thought about the heavy weapons that the armed helicopter might have. Not to mention that his compound eyes and wings may be relatively weak. Even with a blue exoskeleton, it is probably difficult to withstand some heavy weapons. Jia Yan knows that his defense is extremely strong now, but he is not so arrogant that he thinks he is invincible in the human world. After all kinds of destructive weapons in the human world are still incomprehensible to Jia Yan now. Such as cloud bombs and incendiary bombs. This kind of weapon may be converted into the power of a direct explosion and cannot cause Jia Yan too much injury at all. However, this kind of weapon is not based on the power of explosion. Their biggest feature is the violent flames generated by the explosion and the continuous burning. Air causes burns and suffocation due to lack of oxygen. These states will cause Jia Yan's current body to suffer huge injuries, or even death. As for stronger nuclear bombs, Jia Yan doesn't even dare to think about it. Of course, ordinary armed helicopters cannot carry things of that level. Even if Japan, a country with various restrictions, had these weapons, they probably wouldn't dare to use them. But even with ordinary missiles and the like, Jia Yan probably couldn't bear it. Of course, there is an uncertain factor in this, that is, he still doesn't know how strong the defensive power of his blue exoskeleton is. The blue color on the surface of the exoskeleton disappeared long ago when the bullet was squeezed out of the clot. No matter how Jia Yan looked after that, he couldn't see any trace of blue. But Jia Yan knows that as long as a certain part of his exoskeleton takes a blow, this blue color will appear, creating an extremely strong defensive surface for the part of the exoskeleton that was hit. Precisely because he doesn't know where the limit of this defense is, Jia Yan has some doubts about whether his body can withstand powerful human weapons. But there is no doubt that he is not yet invincible. After all, his physical condition is beyond this superficial defense. There are still too many relatively weak areas, such as oxygen. Now Jia Yan can't stand being in a hypoxic environment, even in places with low oxygen content. Not to mention the anaerobic environment caused by cloud bombs. There is also the temperature resistance. He wanted to migrate from the north of China to the south because he was afraid of the temperature dropping. This is only the temperature that humans can withstand. If the enemy launches a temperature attack targeting this weakness of his, he won't be able to resist it. Precisely because of this or that shortcoming, Jia Yan really doesn't want to confront a human army now. Especially when we don't know if there will be a chance to continue mutating and enhancing in the future. He doesn't want to take any chances. Otherwise, even if you escape by chance once, you will not be able to become stronger again in the future. That means you have to live in a situation of constantly escaping here and there for the rest of your life. But Big Mosquito didn't know that he had just been in front of the camera and his true face was seen by almost the entire Japanese people. Fortunately, this exposure. It was not taken seriously by the news media and the Japanese government. Otherwise, there might be an emergency plan to deal with him now. He might appear at the battlefield command center behind the Japanese police and self-defense forces. Okay, these mercenaries have been fooling around for a long time. I will deal with them quickly. Even if they are exposed, there is no one on the battlefield who can intercept me and they can leave calmly. When Jia Yan thought of this, his 6 legs moved faster. A black mercenary was wearing a mask with his back to Jia Yan. This person has a good relationship with Yun because they were both discriminated against when they joined the army, so they stayed together and faced bullying from their white comrades. So much so that Yun arranged for the first echelon to escape this time. He was shooting ahead while retreating. The Foreign Mercenary Corps F is the most famous mercenary corps in the world and has fought the most wars. Compared with the so-called three major mercenaries in the world, this is recognized by the country and has been an established army for many years. Their training and performance are very excellent. And this time, the retired comrades selected by Yulong are all top-notch. For example, this black mercenary's special skill is that his two guns are very accurate. It can almost be said that the firepower of one person is equivalent to that of two people. At this time, he was holding a one-handed submachine gun in each hand. The name of this submachine gun is Uzi submachine gun. It is a small caliber submachine gun with a compact shape and low recoil. Although the recoil is not large, it is not something that ordinary soldiers can do if they want to hold it with one hand, control the recoil and achieve good shooting accuracy. Although this black mercenary is not the strongest among the eight, he is definitely indispensable in the firepower. At this time, his body was covered with magazines and chains. The strong natural physique of black people was reflected in him. Not only did he have strong firepower, but he also changed ammunition very quickly. This man retreated quickly. Yulong is really kind to me, and when I was in China, I also learned about his family background. He was actually the heir to such a huge company. It is said that it was because of the death of the uncle and cousin who wanted to take revenge that he became the heir. If he comes back alive this time and I serve as his subordinate, won't I enjoy endless glory and wealth? This black mercenary is determined to follow Yulong. And just behind the black man who was not paying attention, a dark creature with a lowered body was slowly approaching him. Just as it roughly exited the combat area, you can turn around and when escaping toward the rear. A long black leg, with the afterimage of the strong wind, stabbed directly at the black man's back vest. The bulletproof armor worn by the black mercenary looked as if it were made of paper in front of the long, knife-shaped horns at the front. Ft. Sound. The black mercenaries couldn't react at all. This long foot penetrated from its back and came out from the front. It's just heartbreaking. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 143. The subscription performance is terrible. Please subscribe to the official version and give Baiyu some motivation to work hard and update. The black mercenary's face turned pale for a moment, and he was trembling all over, trying to look behind him with his eyes. However, the human heart is damaged and blood cannot be transported. It is normal to die within a few seconds. Therefore, his wish to see his murderer could not be fulfilled. The tall black man fell forward. And the sharp knife-shaped horn, with blood stains on it, was pulled out from its back. Blood dripped down bit by bit, and bright red blood stains quickly seeped out from the entire ground. Jia Yan retracted his weapon, and then looked at the surrounding scenery with compound eyes. In addition to the black man, there were 3 mercenaries retreating. These people were all allowed to retreat with Yulong's approval. However, there was a certain distance between these people, so no one heard the sound of the black man falling to the ground amidst the loud gunfire. The big mosquito's heart was cold, and then his compound eyes gradually disappeared into the darkness in the constant light of gunfire. The night is Jia Yan's best cover. Humans only have 2 legs, but mosquitoes have 6 long legs. If you want to make no sound, just pay attention to the weight of the long legs when moving, and you can do it silently. Therefore, Jia Yan's actions are extremely covered. Bang bang bang. Gunshots rang out. This was a mercenary man who was not tall. This man looked a bit short among the taller mercenaries, but he was strong and strong. He held a rifle in his hand. Sometimes he squatted down to be precise. Shooting can always injure the Japanese police and self-defense force personnel on the opposite side. So far, among the mercenaries wearing masks, this man may have hurt the most Japanese people. The man retreated while shooting with incredible accuracy. Attacked the distant Japanese government front army. This guy doesn't shoot very fast. His selling point is accuracy. He has won several championships in the mercenary group of Country F. His shooting speed is not fast, but he is very accurate. However, this look is calm. Behind the man who kept firing bullets, a dark body slowly walked out of the dark night. He has an almost entirely black body. On the surface of these bodies, there are tough clots like gelatin, underneath the clots. It is an extremely strong exoskeleton defense, and the most unique thing is the pair of compound eyes on this body. His compound eyes were shining brightly. This light is full of wisdom, making people think about the owner of this body. Do you have wisdom? Of course, the owner of this body. Nature has wisdom. He is a big mosquito, but at the same time, he is also a reborn person with human wisdom. It's just that this reborn person was not reborn decades ago. Becoming the darling of the times who predicts the future, he did not travel to another world and become a super strong man who dominates the world and has beauties. He is just an unlucky person who was reborn as a mosquito larvae, and then relied on his own efforts step by step to finally reach this level. However, the child who used to have no fighting ability and was afraid of even a small water hopper in the water has grown into a monster that is not afraid of ordinary bullets. Without any sound from his body, he slowly approached the masked man with a gun in front of him. This man is short in stature and looks a bit like a Middle Easterner. However, Jia Yan does not understand the subtle differences between these people. He only knows that each of these people are pests that have threatened or even harmed his family in previous lives. If this kind of person doesn't kill, he will definitely kill more people, and he might even continue to persecute his own family. For his family, so I want all of these people to die. He came all the way here, even at Daewon Island, to engage in an unprecedented battle with fighter planes. It's for this moment. The short man was retreating, but this man was relatively calm. While retreating, he kept looking at the scenery behind him. We are almost out of the combat area. We can turn around and leave this hellish place with a few comrades. Yulong said that it was easier to earn money by doing non-dangerous tasks, and he could even get a lot of money, but he didn't expect that it would actually turn into a confrontation with the power of a country. For such a thing, no matter how many lives you have, it won't be enough. In the future, I can no longer have any interaction with this dangerous person like Yulong. Anyway, I have obtained the nationality of Country F in that country with better welfare. Besides not being able to continue to enjoy fighting, it is not very good to be an ordinary person. This sturdy short man was different from what the black man thought. He wanted to have a clear relationship with Yulong. But no matter what he thinks about the future, a terrifying monster that was about to end his life showed no emotion at all. Kill them all. The big mosquito came quietly behind the man. But the man in fine clothes seemed to have some awareness at this moment. He suddenly heard a sound from behind. Quickly, he looked back with his head. What a big mosquito! This thought flashed through the man in fine clothes. Could this be the monster Yulong and the others were talking about? Not good. You must quickly warn Yulong and others. Just when this strong man had so many thoughts flashing through his mind in an instant, the big dark mosquito in his eyes was a forefoot that was already ready to attack, raised from a high angle. Stab hard. Poof. The sharp horny forefoot and the thin blade are like an indestructible sword. Pierce the man's throat directly. His words were choked in his throat, and there was no possibility of them being spoken out. No, the look on the strong man's face was frightened. No matter how calm a person is, he will not be so calm in the face of death. Now he is looking at the blood dripping on the ground, and feeling the constant loss of blood in his body. Vitality suddenly felt a deep regret that he did not dare to participate in this operation, regret that he had taken Yulong's large sum of money, which was enough to nourish his life for at least 10 years. If we honestly lived in that paradise-like country wouldn't there be no possibility of such danger? The strong man finally closed his eyes helplessly. It was one thing to have his throat pierced. The main artery in the throat was cut off and blood could not be transported to the brain. The brain will be deprived of oxygen in an instant. Will die soon. After killing a few people, Jia Yan, the big mosquito, gained a little understanding of killing and the methods of killing. Everyone has some experience. His body continued to disappear into the darkness. Of the 4 people who left, 2 people have died. The other 2 people left the fighting area and retreated towards the rocky road behind. The police and self-defense forces personnel are working hard to surround this reef area. The blazing beams of light were also illuminated by the headlights on those vehicles. If you don't leave, it will be 100 times more difficult to leave next. So the remaining 2 people were very excited to be able to escape first. But in fact, this means it is not their luck. Or should I say, unfortunate. Because they are going to die first. Just when these 2 people left the fighting area, I also ran away from the direction of the light, from moving forward vigilantly to running in the dark. The 2 men suddenly. I heard a strange sound suddenly appear behind me. Buzz. The sound sounded like a creature flapping its wings. But the sound of flapping wings is louder than that of ordinary birds. Then, the sound suddenly became faster. Buzz. Yin yin yin. When the sound turns into a deafening noise. The 2 men finally turned their eyes to the back in horror. Then they only saw a ferocious and strange flying creature speeding towards the 2 of them. Is this? The 2 of them couldn't help but take a deep breath. One of the 2 people was a tall white man who had seen the giant mosquito monster before. This man had long been extremely afraid of the invulnerable giant mosquito. Now when I saw the big mosquito appeared again and sprinted towards me at an extremely fast speed, I suddenly let out a scream. He hurriedly ran forward in a hurry. He had escaped first, but Yulong was left to face the mosquito alone, and he was safe. This time he actually did the same thing again. Another white mercenary, after being shocked, picked up the gun in his hand and aimed at the mosquito monster attacking from the air. Snapped. Gunshots rang out without warning. But the gunshot was just a shot, and the tall white man in front ran for his life. I heard a dull snort from my comrade behind me. His pores suddenly trembled, and he looked behind him. Immediately, my scalp exploded. That comrade's forehead was directly pierced by a big mosquito. His back was facing him, but a knife-shaped creature's forefoot on his head directly penetrated the entire head and was slowly retracting. A powerful mercenary couldn't even hold on for a few seconds in front of this monster. Monster, the tall man couldn't help but scream. His voice changed, and it seemed to have a feminine accent, which showed how frightened the big mosquito was to him. The expressions of the 3 mercenaries who were resisting the police and the self-defense forces not far away changed a bit. This comrade is usually the most timid among them, but it must be rare to see something that can scare him like this, right? Monster. The remaining 2 people all turned their attention to Yulong, whose face turned pale. Could it be the monster Yulong mentioned? It's really impossible to. The screams not far from the coast continued, and it seemed that the tall white man was screaming and running away. But this scream was followed by the most violent high-octave scream, accompanied by a series of gunshots. Come to a screeching halt. The expressions of the 3 masked mercenaries who were blocking the Japanese firepower suddenly darkened. They knew that they were really in trouble. No matter what, let's evacuate immediately. I also have a smoke grenade here. Throw it over and it can block the Japanese police and self-defense forces for a moment. Yulong, with an oriental face, took out an oval-shaped object from his arms. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 144. This oval-shaped thing is about the size of a goose egg and is made entirely of steel. 3 mercenaries wearing masks, after a few short sentences of tactical arrangements. Yulong threw the smoke grenade towards the ground ahead. After the slight sound of bang, streams of smoke and dust floated up from the ground. The function of the smoke grenade is to create smoke so that the enemy cannot see the situation, so that they can attack or retreat. Let's go. The 3 remaining masked mercenaries looked at each other one by one, and then retreated to the rear. Those gangsters are going to escape. Don't let them escape. Chase them. The police and the self-defense forces had realized that the masked gangsters were trying to escape as soon as the firepower of the masked gangsters became weak. So now that the smoke grenades were thrown out, the police and self-defense forces troops were immediately all over the place. Jump out from behind a bunker or vehicle. Chase the gangsters along their escape route. The interview helicopter in the sky was constantly circling, and the female anchor in the aircraft suddenly said to the camera, "The battle situation has changed. Audiences, please see, the gangsters below have begun to evacuate, and the police and self-defense forces are pursuing them. They are chasing the gangsters. Will this be the final result of the incident?" The female anchor spoke very quickly and quickly introduced the scene. Including smoke grenades blocking the sight of the police and self-defense forces members, people can't see any scene ahead at all. What is happening to the gangsters now, etc. There was even more agitation over there in the studio, including the so-called military experts and senior police officials invited to the studio. They all looked at the live broadcast nervously. When these people saw the scene change, they knew that now was the last and most stressful situation. If the police and the self-defense forces work hard, they should wipe out all the gangsters now. If they still escape, then the headlines in tomorrow's newspapers will definitely be a bunch of condemnation. Especially the senior officials of the police and self-defense forces, they are even more nervous about the current changes. Because this will be related to their future and responsibility. These people have seen it before. Bandits wearing masks on the battlefield. Each one of them is definitely a well-trained veteran, but if you explain this thing to ordinary people, they don't understand it, so they can only use it after killing or capturing the gangster. Only then can we explain it to the people. Now the scene is even more heated. Bullets kept flying out of the smoke. An unlucky member of the self-defense forces was hit by a bullet while advancing. He screamed. He rolled directly to the ground, holding the injured area and screaming miserably. This scene made the people in front of the TV have a better impression of these self-defense force members and the police. But when I saw other people being affected by this scene, after they became afraid to pursue him, the people in front of the TV began to curse again. Police and self-defense forces members, don't dare to move forward in front of the smoke. Let's go. Just behind the smoke, several mercenary men wearing masks gave up a location that was very suitable for defense. One by one, their footsteps were like the wind, running towards the reef area on the edge of the battlefield. Just run a distance of 500 meters. There was a speedboat prepared by Yulong. They boarded the speedboat and followed their own abilities. It will not be difficult to escape from Japan. But before that, these people need to be careful about something. That monster looks very similar to a mosquito, you must be careful. While Yulong was running, he did not forget to remind the remaining 2 companions. Just now, they called the first few escape companions through the encrypted channel of the communication equipment, but there was no response. Including Yulong, these people's hearts sank. If there is no response, there are several possibilities. The first is that these people were killed or captured. The second possibility is that the communication signal was destroyed. The third possibility is that these people drove the speedboat themselves and fled the coast without waiting for them. It is unlikely that the signal was destroyed. The communication between the three of them is still normal now. It is impossible for those people to escape alone, because they cannot use the backup arranged by Yulong. It is simply impossible to leave in a speedboat. Then only the first possibility is the most likely. And listening to the screams of the cowardly comrades before, the thing that caused their death or injury should be the monster Yulong mentioned before. Isn't this a joke? Except for Yulong, the other two people looked at each other solemnly. At this time, it is impossible for Yulong to lie. This means that the monster he mentioned before really exists. The two of them were very solemn in their hearts. If they said they did not regret this mission, that would be a lie. But having come to this point, it was like when they were sent to Ahan and other places for missions, they were surrounded by armed forces several times, and they felt regretful in their hearts, but they persevered every time. Haven't lived till now? Therefore, these veterans who have fought hundreds of battles are all running more vigilantly, but no one has any regrets. However, the emotions of these people will not affect the attack of the monster. Jia Yan slowly moved his body in the darkness of the reef in front of where these people were running quickly. This journey was another 2,000 miles. He was actually tired for a long time, but now was not the time for him to rest. He killed half of the mercenaries who injured Jia's father with his own hands. Now there are only 3 left. Especially the man named Yulong, he must be the man with an oriental face running at the front among the 3. If this person doesn't die, it's not called revenge. Therefore, Jia Yan will not give up at this time, even if he knows that if he continues to fight, he will be very likely to be exposed. The interview helicopter overhead seemed to be approaching its final climax, despite the police's warning, as the battle reached its final climax. The sound it made was a yin, 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 yin sound that was louder than Jia Yan's wings. Under the cover of this sound, Jia Yan vibrated his wings without being noticed at all. Buzz buzz. Jia Yan slowly flapped his wings and slowly flew behind the reef. Time is running out. He wanted to kill all the last 3 mercenary men before the police and self-defense forces arrived. In the dark reef area, night shrouds the entire area. There is an eerie tranquility here. But no matter how you look at it, it seems to have some very creepy atmosphere. Especially when several running mercenaries saw 2 comrades lying on the ground who had already lost their breath. This creepy atmosphere has reached its peak. Let's go. But be careful around you. This wound is definitely caused by that monster. He is still nearby. Yulong saw a companion who had been stabbed in the chest and abdomen. His face just looks ugly. He seemed to be thinking about the giant mosquito monster he was almost killed by before. The sight of a piercing. If it hadn't been for the sudden sniper attack from the self-defense forces, he would have died at that time. Facing that big mosquito again, he couldn't think of any way to defeat it. Invulnerable. Even the speed is so fast that I can't react. His only way was to take advantage of the big mosquitoes to attack his companions. Don't worry about the yacht. Jump directly into the sea, and you might have a chance to escape. I hope that big mosquito won't appear, Yulong prayed in his heart. But will Jia Yan comply with his prayer and not show up? It's out of the question. Buzz buzz. Just in front of the 3 people's escape route. Behind a rock. The sound of flapping wings became a little clearer. A bloody foot. It is suspended lightly in mid-air and stretches out from behind the reef. The 3 running people suddenly stopped in their tracks. In their stunned gaze, a huge black mosquito. In the reflection of their disbelieving pupils, starting at the feet, appear slowly. Strange, monster. The 2 white mercenaries who had not believed Yulong's words before were stunned and stopped involuntarily. Yulong also stopped in fear. It was not easy to defeat the Japanese police and the Japanese self-defense forces. Escape. But at this time, an existence appeared that was almost irresistible to humans. Jia Yan is like the last one, showing his majestic figure behind the reef. This figure may not be very tall. But the shock he gave people did not diminish by half. Each foot, which is only over 2 meters long, stretches out in the air like a thick branch. Completely blocked the entire road ahead. His pair of compound eyes flashed with a cold and faint luster, making people shudder. Run away. Firearms are useless against him. Before Jia Yan's flying posture started, Yulong roared loudly. He had been running on the coast for a long time. At this time, regardless of the cold water, he ran towards the sea in one step. This person actually made plans to swim in the sea but not face the giant mosquito monster. But how could Jia Yan let him, the person in charge, escape? Yin yin yin. The sound of giant mosquitoes spreading their wings suddenly overwhelmed the sound of the helicopter's rotor in this area. The speed reaches the critical point in an instant. Whoops! The strong wind swept past the tentacle's ears. The sound is extremely crisp. It proves that Jia Yan's speed at this time is absolutely extremely high. He first rushed towards the two mercenaries who raised their guns and would shoot him if they didn't believe it. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The two of them aimed their various firearms at the large mosquito that was approaching at high speed in the air. They couldn't believe that this monster was actually invulnerable. If you want to be invulnerable, the human world has not developed anything with that kind of defense level. Although this monster looks rather ferocious, is it possible that it is that kind of existence? Impossible. So they didn't believe in evil and fired. Puff puff puff. Jia Yan felt that his forward body was hit by bullets. His forward speed was suddenly hindered. But this time, a strange light flashed in his compound eyes. Because he is in a hurry, he must not be knocked away by the inertia of the bullet. At least it can't be shot very far. So Jia Yan's flying figure suddenly twisted the angle of his wings. Explosive power, reaches the limit. Groan. The sound of the whistling wings was almost continuous, and the terrifying roar completely covered up the syllables of the helicopter in the sky. His body, vibrating with extremely powerful wings, was actually not knocked away by the bullet attack. He just retreated less than 10 meters and stabilized. The cold gaze in Jia Yanfu's eyes became even more intense. Groan. Next, his body moved directly. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 145. Book Friends Group, 4338429223, Group 2, 4661222798, Book Friends with genuine subscriptions are welcome to join. The dark figure is no longer charging forward blindly. Instead, he made evasive maneuvers in the air. Yin yin yin. Swish, swish, swish. In the dark sky, countless after-images seem to appear in an instant. The speed of the big mosquito becomes flexible. Two white mercenaries, their eyes were dazzled. Why are you so fast? You can't hit me. Bastard. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The guns in their hands kept firing. Keep shooting. However, not a single bullet hit the huge mosquito flying in the air. Jia Yan is trying to use his speed to avoid bullets shot in the air. Of course, real evasion is impossible, and his speed is not so exaggerated as to be able to exceed bullets. But before the two mercenaries held guns in their arms and fired in a certain direction, he could escape from that area at a speed faster than the movement of their arms. Extremely fast. The two white mercenaries finally understood why Yulong chose to go into the sea when he saw this monster. This monster turns out to be truly invulnerable. He can even do something as exaggerated as dodging bullets in a hail of bullets. Both of them had extremely frightened expressions on their faces hidden under their masks. It's true that they are mercenaries with powerful combat capabilities, but in their previous experience, how have they ever encountered such beings that can evade bullets? Now that they encountered this kind of existence that could not be understood by common sense, they suddenly panicked. In battle, panic means an end. Die. Hoo ho ho. Jia Yan's body brought about a series of wind noises. This series of wind sounds means that his speed has once again risen to a new level. Then his body formed a faint shadow, passing in front of the two mercenaries. Extremely fast. On the neck of a mercenary, a red bloody line suddenly appeared. After this line slowly overflowed with blood, and the blood formed a stream, gurgling out. After a moment, poof! Blood spurts out. There were blood stains sprayed high on the ground, splattering everywhere. The scene is terrifying. Another white mercenary standing aside. His face was pale at this time. More than just pale. There was an unpleasant smell between his legs, and his legs were shaking. I was so scared that I peed my pants. Jia Yan's body in the air was extremely nimble. After turning around in the air, he returned with one stroke. This time he no longer retains his speed. Continue to use dazzling ways to dodge bullets. Ah! Don't come over. The white mercenary, who was constantly trembling on the spot, roared crazily. Pull the trigger of the weapon in your hand. But this cathartic attack can't do anything to Jia Yan now. To put it mildly, this white mercenary's gunfighting prowess. It was probably not as good as any of the mercenaries he had encountered before, and even those people were easily killed by Jia Yan. It is impossible for this guy to escape this disaster. Jia Yan's body flashed past again. Poof! The sharp knife-shaped horn is like a peerless sword. The blade's sides were extremely sharp and sliced through the man's neck. This is a better attack method that Jia Yan just developed today. This attack method is to use his sharp knife-shaped horn to cut the main artery in the human neck. It can not only cause the death of the opponent, but also allow you to kill the opponent as quickly and efficiently as possible. This is another combat evolution for Jia Yan. Actual combat is always the best way to train your combat skills. If it weren't for tonight's battle, Jia Yan wouldn't have the ability to dodge bullets, let alone know this quick and efficient killing method. Puff puff. The white mercenary stood on the ground, constantly using his palms to block the blood spurting from his neck, but no matter how much he screamed, the main artery was severed and it was impossible to save him. Not 2 minutes. The man finally fell to the ground after losing too much blood. Then his whole body kept twitching, just like his comrade lying on the side. Perhaps these two men who had experienced hundreds of battles were wondering whether among the many people they had killed, were they as miserable and crazy as they were before death? But no matter how prosperous these two people were in the past, and how many lives they had at their disposal, at this time, their fate was just like the mercenaries Jia Yan killed before. Pain keeps rising in the pool of blood. The final outcome is only death. Finally, the two stopped moving. A worthy death. At this time, the big murderous mosquito had already lost its figure. His flying figure kept making sounds and movements in the vicinity. Buzz. Viewers, please take a look, this is the latest shot captured by our camera. Did you see the ground below? That is a person. This is the body of a gangster. It seems that these gangsters finally did not escape in the hail of bullets. This person died here. Oh. The cameraman has made a new discovery. Everyone, pay attention to the front of the camera. There is another corpse there. Please don't let your children see this scene. Let me describe this corpse to you. There is something on his head. There is a big hole. According to the on-site military experts, it is a wound shot by the Self-Defense Forces standard rifle. It seems that a certain Self-Defense Forces member made a meritorious service this time. The female anchor who reported on the spot looked excited. As a criminal incident was being interviewed on the spot, if the incident did not progress well, not only would the country's police and self-defense forces receive negative reviews, but she, the female anchor, would also be affected. So although she had been trying her best to express herself before, it was like a big gamble. If she was right, her net worth would skyrocket. If she was wrong, it would probably be difficult for her in the future. But this time, the bet was obviously right, and so many corpses of gangsters were found. It seems that the police and self-defense forces can bring all this group of gangsters to justice. The people will be happy, and she will also receive praise. The helicopter continued to circle high in the sky. Some police officers and members of the self-defense force also broke through the smoke blockade and entered the place where the gangsters used to fortify themselves. This place is already deserted. But no one relaxed, and everyone moved forward very vigilantly. But they don't know. All the gangsters. They had already been struck by a creature that these people had not expected. Almost the entire army was wiped out. Just far away from the crowd, a figure was tumbling in the sea. Yulong swallowed the sea water with big mouthfuls. This was not what he wanted to swallow, but a huge dark mosquito above his head. He was using his slender legs to suppress his head. Fork hard into the water. Go! Monster! Kill me! Ah! Yulong kept struggling in the water, but his hands and feet were helplessly suppressed by the monster with one of its long legs. Although the weight of this large mosquito does not seem to be exaggerated. But after Yulong was severely suppressed by its long legs, he couldn't move. Jia Yan used his front feet to suppress the oriental-faced man in front of him. The cold color in the compound eyes is even stronger. Yulong's judgment was very accurate. If Jia Yan hadn't killed the two white mercenaries very quickly, Yulong might have actually escaped from the area by swimming. Good thing. There are no ifs. After Jia Yan saw the masked man slowly diving into the sea from a distance, there was an inexplicable cold flash in his eyes. This is the culprit. He actually wanted to escape. Anger flashed in his heart. Jia Yan had just killed two white men when he discovered that the culprit who injured his father was missing. At that time, the two white mercenaries could not even be considered killed, because their trachea and aorta were only cut. At that time, blood was still spraying out. But Jia Yan couldn't care less about these people. He just put them aside and quickly spread his wings and used his infrared eyes function to explore the heat sources in the surrounding sea. The man in the oriental mask did not escape, so he found him immediately. Then, Jia Yan almost instantly arrived behind the man who had fled more than 50 meters. A pair of front legs grabbed it directly from the water and to the shore. Soak hard. If it hadn't been for this man, Jia's father would not have been injured at all. Jia Yan's heart became cold, but he still didn't forget to confirm the other party's true face. After soaking Yulong in the water until he no longer had any resistance at all, one front foot violently ripped off the mask he was wearing on his head. Aha! The wet mask was thrown into the water. Jia Yan used one of his front legs, using a force that Yulong could not resist, to pull his head to his compound eyes that emitted a faint cold light. Monster! Bastard monster! Yulong looked at the monster's compound eyes, which were only about 10 centimeters in front of him, with an unwavering expression on his face, still provoking him. This man has elegant features and looks somewhat heroic and handsome. The most important thing is that his appearance is really similar to Yu Yuan and Yu Tao. Sure enough, he is Yulong. Jia Yan finally no longer doubted whether he had found the wrong person, and his eyes were full of disgust for this familiar face. Now that it's confirmed, you can die. Yulong opened his mouth and seemed to want to talk trash to the big mosquito monster in front of him. He didn't know if the other party could understand, but if he didn't say something, he wouldn't be confused. His pursuit of the two killers may not be perfect, but Yu Long had already thought about how he should retreat if he attracted the attention of the Japanese police and self-defense forces. If this big mosquito does not appear, even if they hadn't killed the two killers now, they should have fled to a safe place long ago. That way he can explain to his family members at home, and the most important thing is to get the approval of Yu Yuan's mother, who is also his aunt. Then the entire huge Yu family will be his. But why did this mosquito monster appear? What the hell is he? Yu Long's eyes were filled with anger and unwillingness. In Jia Yan's opinion, this kind of unwillingness was exactly the same as when he killed Yu Yuan a few months ago and saw the expression on his face before he died. As expected of cousins. Even when he died, his expression was the same. The coldness in Jia Yan's heart exploded instantly. Please subscribe to the official version. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 146. I forgot to type the chapter name of the previous chapter, Chapter 24, The Culprit, Captured. Poof. A blow from his left front foot pierced Yu Long's right thigh. Blood splatters. Blood flowers fly. If you break my father's leg, I will break yours before you die. Ah, Yu Long screamed. It's just that this scream is very similar to Yu Yuan's voice. This discovery made Jia Yan even more uncomfortable. The left front foot was pulled out hard from Yu Long's ferocious wound. Poof. Ugh, Yu Long screamed miserably again. However, before his yelling continued, Jia Yan's blood-stained left front foot. Poof. Suddenly stabbed again. This is the interest rate charged to frighten my family. Jia Yan's compound eyes were faint, with a cold and terrifying light. He retracted his front foot again. It's been brewing for a while. Another hard stab. Poof. Stab into Yu Yuan's right thigh. The entire thigh was pierced directly, and the blood was stained. The blood spread in the sea water, and the fishy smell was pungent. This is the reward for making me come all the way here. Jia Yan's heart was still extremely cold. Monster! You damn monster! Yu Long looked at the big mosquito so close, his face became ferocious due to the severe pain, but he refused to soften his words. This is different from Yu Yuan. Just when Jia Yan was about to make another move. Suddenly. Bang 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 bang. There were some bullets shot around him. The police and self-defense forces members in the rear were almost invisible. Listening to the screams, I saw what seemed to be two figures standing in the sea in the distance, and I immediately started shooting. Jia Yan was slightly startled. After a series of fights and the pursuit of Yu Long, I didn't expect that so much time was wasted. With a pair of compound eyes, he looked behind him and then at Yu Long, who was sweating in front of him. This guy looks so much like Yu Yuan. Aroused too much hatred in Jia Yan. Otherwise, I wouldn't have tortured him like this. Of course this is all as it should be. He actually hurt his own family. He deserves this kind of pain and torture. But because there was no time. The only way to end this is. Asshole, die, monster, monster, Yu Long was still roaring, even though his body was lifted into the sea by the monster. But he still kept saying dirty words. If it weren't for this environment, I would be willing to play more with you. It's a pity. This game is definitely not interesting. Jia Yan felt a little ruthless in his heart. Yu Long seemed to sense something and was about to yell something. But until then, Jia Yan's right front foot has never been used. Lift it like lightning. Aim at the chest of Yu Long who is close at hand. Poof. Pass directly through the chest. A canopy of huge blood flowers. Blooming in the icy cold water beach. Like a bright red flower. Dye a piece of sea water with bright colors. Blood spilled from the corner of Yu Long's mouth as he looked at the head of the mosquito monster close at hand. He wanted to say something, but no words could come out of his throat. Finally. There was that crazy fire for survival in the eyes of Yulong, the culprit. Gradually extinguished. Unwilling to do so, it became turbid, and then eyeballs lose focus. He slowly lowered his head. Finally, the body no longer has any strength at all. Died. The culprit finally died suddenly. The matter has finally come to an end. After traveling thousands of kilometers, I finally completed the matter. Jia Yan didn't have much sigh in his heart, he was just very tired. Even though he is already a powerful monster that ordinary humans cannot believe, at this time, he is really tired. It is finally over. He penetrated one of Yulong's front legs and slowly pulled it back. After that, he could avoid people's eyes and ears, find a quiet place, and take a good rest. After recovering your mental and physical strength, you can proceed with your next plan in Japan. That was the moment when Yulong was about to die. Aha! A beam of light shines down from the sky. This beam of light is so bright that it directly illuminates a 30-meter radius. It's like a bright stage, directly highlighting the protagonist of the stage play. However, this stage play may not be performed by the protagonist himself. Maybe the audience never thought that there would be such an unexpected protagonist in the center of the stage. Snap! Among countless TV sets, the sound of a button to turn on the light source is transmitted through the camera to thousands of households in front of these TV sets. Some of these audiences are ordinary working-class families, some are singles, some are students, some are company presidents, and some are hotel escort girls. Countless people, countless professions. They were all in front of the TV, watching the live news that Japan had rarely seen since the World War. Many of these people were watching the scene in front of the TV as if they were watching a play. Some are filled with righteous indignation and feel that the country is getting worse and worse, so they watch while cursing. No matter what state of mind you are watching the scene with, you are still watching the TV. These people are about to see a science fiction scene that is completely incompatible with the unexpected event. Everyone in the audience, please look below. We have just risked our lives and entered the fighting area 50 meters above the ground. Please look at the mess below. There are corpses of gangsters everywhere. I believe these are the gains of our Japanese police and self-defense forces. These, although there are casualties among the people's defenders, they have been rushing forward regardless of their own safety. I believe that if the lives of the people are entrusted to the protection of these warriors, they will definitely live up to their expectations. Now, this machine will turn on the maximum intensity of light, illuminating the ground. At the same time, it will also illuminate the way forward for the people's warriors risking their lives below. The female anchor said with an excited voice. In fact, this was the condition for the police to reluctantly allow them to enter the war zone. After all, it seems that the battle is basically over now. The interview helicopter is 50 meters above the ground, so there shouldn't be much danger. And the police and self-defense forces really need the assistance of helicopter lights. This time, the response speed of the police and self-defense force military helicopters was too slow. I guess it was at this point. Too much blame is coming again. Snap! The brightest light from a helicopter. Reflected from above. When this light shines down, the stage curtain opens. Countless Japanese people in front of the TV saw the scenery below. In the bright sea water. The light is in the center. A dark creature stood quietly in the sea. He has an almost entirely black body. The surface of this body is filled with brilliance, refracting the light of strong light. He also has incredibly long legs, which are inserted deeply into the sea water one by one. The sea water spray died. Pieces like warriors rushing forward slapped on the body of the black monster. Then it broke into countless petals, and finally fell into the water, becoming a beautiful past tense. This monster suddenly appeared. It's like a guest suddenly broke into the painting and completely tore the original picture apart. Tear to pieces. television footage of the entire broadcast. It turned into another scene. It seems that the style of painting has changed. Take people away from the tense police and gangster battle movies. Forcibly brought into a science fiction movie where monsters appear. This is simply too inconsistent. Not only all the viewers in front of the TV were attracted by the scene on the screen. Startled. Even the female anchor who was broadcasting the report immediately stopped the squirming of her rosy mouth that kept talking. She was stunned for a moment and couldn't utter a single word. Fortunately, the cameraman was quite capable. When he saw this scene, the camera only shook violently, but did not drop the expensive camera into the sea water from mid-air. What kind of monster is this? Countless people screamed in shock in their hearts. Didn't many people say they saw monsters before? Didn't the live broadcast room explain that it was just an optical illusion? Where is Nima now? Is this still an optical illusion? Brick, please come out and explain. This idea came to people's minds in front of the TV one after another. Then after these people took a closer look at the monster in the picture, they realized in horror. This monster actually had a bloody human skewered in one of its slender front legs. His front feet were extremely sharp and pierced directly through the oriental-faced human. The man seemed to still be breathing and was trembling. Bloodstains spread all over the sea, making the entire sea water red. The female anchor on the helicopter screamed in a very unnatural way. Dear viewers, what on earth is this? Could it be that the monster we saw before is him? It turns out that there really are monsters in this world. This is a giant mosquito-like monster. This is a huge mosquito-like monster. Monster. Audiences, have you all seen it? This monster killed a person, this is a murderous monster. Have you all seen it? The female anchor was almost incoherent, but her excited words were in line with the current scene. Because countless Japanese people in front of the TV also have such a sentiment. Hurry. Hurry and record. This is big news. Zayasi. Look. The monster you just mentioned has really appeared. He even killed people. Oh my God. Dad, Mom. Look, what I said is right, right? I said I just saw a monster. Damn it, is this a science fiction movie? Why did a huge mosquito suddenly come? Countless Japanese people went crazy because of this huge mosquito that was suddenly exposed under the spotlight. At the same time, countless messages are being transmitted on the internet. A giant mosquito has appeared. Shocking news. A huge mosquito has appeared on TV. The murderous monster is here. Although it is not as big as the 3 monsters that China reported to the world, it still looks very scary. It seems that there were reports of big mosquitoes in China some time ago, but that big mosquito can't be compared with the one on TV. Our Japanese people are mosquito mothers, and theirs are mosquito sons. I'm scared to death. There is such a big mosquito in the world, and it seems to have killed a person. The Japanese country became a sensation in all directions in an instant. The live program, at this moment, had a viewership rating of over 40%. 50. 55. Still rising. The entire Japanese country, at the moment when the giant mosquito appeared in front of the TV camera, make countless exciting and sensational sounds. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 147. Finger and stomach pain, finger tendon pain, arm pain, elbow pain, butt pain, waist pain, back pain. The whole body does not hurt except the balls. It seems that everything hurts. Damn, the balls are sad. Why do you feel pain? I'm not in pain. I'm so xenophobic. In order to comfort my sad eggs, I'll just update it today. I don't know how many Japanese people sprayed drinks out of their mouths because of the mosquitoes in the shot. I don't know how many Japanese people choke on their food when eating. Gao Jiayan's performance caused several old Japanese people to develop heart disease, and they might even die from fear. This scene that happened in Japan aroused heated discussion throughout the world at an unprecedented speed. And right at the center of the incident, Yu Long, who Jiayan had stabbed with his front foot, slowly withdrew. Wow! Just when he smashed Yu Long's body into the water. What? Jiayan suddenly felt that his body and the surrounding environment suddenly became bright. The snow-white light shines down on the head, illuminating the entire 30-meter radius into bright colors. Everything, including the sea water, including the fine sand and rocks in the shallow water, is completely illuminated. Even Jiayan's body is like this. It was originally a very hidden figure in the dark, but in a bright environment, this black color has become the most conspicuous color. It is directly exposed in the center of the light, and is all visible to the surrounding humans. Get it crystal clear. A group of Japanese policemen and members of the self-defense force stood on the shore not far away, staring at him in shock. Jiayan turned his compound eyes and saw pairs of human eyes. These eyes were looking at his body. Since his rebirth, this is the first time he has been exposed to the attention of so many pairs of eyes. Crazy. Countless people are watching the TV screen crazily. The host and special guests in the live broadcast room were also looking at the screen with wide eyes. The female anchor on the helicopter was also looking at the giant mosquito below in stunned silence. The entire Japanese country seems to be in a state of chaos at this time. Monster. This word popped up everywhere almost instantly and became a hot word in an instant. Shoot. Kill him, this is a murderous monster. Suddenly, a member of the self-defense forces on the coast shouted. Police and self-defense force members onlookers. It's like waking up just now. One by one, they raised their firearms. These firearms are loaded because they are used to deal with gangsters. So when you start shooting at this time, it is definitely very fast. Standing in the cold sea water, Jiayan's compound eyes moved slightly. I looked at the police and self-defense force members on the shore. It's been exposed. He sighed. In fact, it was as early as when the mutation first occurred. Jiayan thought about whether he would be exposed. He was even more thinking about saving the little girl from Huaxia Elementary School. Will he be in danger if he is noticed by Chinese officials? They also crossed paths with the Chinese army and shuttled through a hail of bullets. When he finally escaped successfully, Jiayan was also thinking. Has he really come into the sight of mankind since then? When he reached the height of 1 meter, he never thought that he could hide in a hidden place without being discovered by humans. On the way to Japan. Wasn't it intercepted by a bent fighter jet? But Jiayan really never thought about it, not long after he arrived in Japan. He was hit right in the middle, and the shot was perfect. The situation at this time was not something that Huaxia Kingdom could see at a glance. Not even passing by in the army, because of some regulations in the army, it is unlikely that he will be exposed. In the current situation, there are Japanese police and Japanese self-defense forces nearby, and there is an interview helicopter overhead. If nothing goes wrong, the footage of him now captured will have been transmitted to the TV station, right? The control of TV programs in Japan is far less strict than that in China. Sometimes the power of the TV media is so powerful that even a ruling party is driven out of power. In such a country, it is impossible to restrict the TV programs that TV stations want to broadcast. So, starting from today, Jiayan will really become a star. Unlike the several times in China, they were all vague and even spread on the internet. This time it's really going to be popular. If it becomes popular, then it will become popular. I am no longer the little mosquito I was before, with no ability to protect myself. My life is up to me. If you humans dare to take my chances, then go ahead. Jia Yan spreads his wings. Shoot. He's running away. When the police and self-defense force members saw Jia Yan actually spreading his wings, they knew that this murderous monster was about to escape. Humans are like this. If a monster dares to kill a human, even if that human is a gangster who has killed people, it is intolerable. Moreover, this monster looks like the kind of extremely dangerous one. Jia Yan didn't care about them at all, he just flapped his wings gently under the light. Buzz. At this moment, rounds of bullets suddenly started shooting from the coast. Bang 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 bang. Bang bang bang. Regardless of the caliber of the gun, a flurry of bullets with flowing bullets faced Jia Yan and attacked at an extremely fast speed. At this moment, whether it was the senior officials of the self-defense forces, the senior officials of the Japanese police department, or those big figures of the Japanese country who happened to watch the TV show, these people plus countless people at the bottom. At this time, all eyes are focused on the battle scene. A monster suddenly appeared in a TV show, an unknown creature that entered the scene of the bandit suppression. This creature was still in front of the TV and killed a human being. Although that person seemed to be one of the gangsters, but for such a they cannot tolerate a murderous monster that appears in Japan. So this big mosquito monster must die. Even if you don't kill them, you still have to capture them. No one would think that this big mosquito could escape bullets. Even if the monster's body is thousands of times larger than the average mosquito, no one would think that this monster has the ability to withstand human heat. Weapon abilities. But the next scene made the people in front of the screen really dumbfounded and stunned. I can't say a word. Poof. Phew. Phew. Countless bullets were fired. Under such an intensive attack, it was impossible for Jia Yan to completely dodge all the bullets. So his body was like straw that was suddenly swept away by the strong wind. Bullets hit him one after another. But it couldn't even penetrate the clot on the body's surface because of the huge kinetic energy of the bullet. He lifted Jia Yan's body, which was only the weight of a human child, into the air, and then the next bullet attacked again. Jia Yan was hit repeatedly. Puchi puchi puchi. But in this shower of bullets, Jia Yan's wings spread out. But unwavering. Keep slapping. Buzz buzz. Buzz 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 buzz. Yin yin yin. The giant mosquito's super strong and powerful wings can be found in almost all the muscles and bones of its body. The most powerful place. Bullets kept hitting the wings, but the wings were still flapping crazily. None of the shots penetrated the wings, or even broke the surface of the wings. That seemingly thin layer of clot structure. Now Jia Yan's clot structure has swallowed the metal material of the metal exoskeleton. It has reached an unbelievable level. The strength and weight have all been greatly improved. Ding dong. Ding dong. The sound of countless bullets is ringing. Puff 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 puff. Violent flapping of wings. Actually in mid-air, it reached an unimaginable level of terror. Finally, there was a bullet that not only did not enter the claw tissue during the flapping of the wings, but instead bounced off the flapping wings. This bullet directly caused a stray bullet. Shoot at the beach where the Japanese police and self-defense forces are located. Poof. Ah. The stray bullet that bounced off Jia Yan's wings actually shot a police officer directly in the arm. This man screamed. It attracted the attention of the police and self-defense forces members from all over. Then, they saw a scene that horrified them. This monster is actually not dead yet. And not only that, he was also using his wildly flapping wings to attack with rebound bullets. The stray bullets that bounced off injured a policeman. Oh my god. This big mosquito monster is actually invulnerable. He can also rebound and attack. Oh my god, what on earth is this monster? The female anchor on the helicopter had an expression full of horror. This is a kind of thing that is difficult to see with human power. Normal performance after the presence of counterbalance. Her unbelievable words were filled with deep fear, and this fear, with the help of television sets, was transmitted to thousands of households. This. The people in front of the TV were all stunned, and their minds could hardly think. Dinkin. Quick, prepare a car for me and go to the Metropolitan Police headquarters. I'm going to summon technicians overnight to analyze and study this mosquito monster. The appearance of this monster is a great threat to the Japanese country. I happened to see the scene on the TV. The police chief of the Japanese National Police Department quickly hung up the phone and called his secretary. And the people in front of the TV looked at the scene unfolding in front of them like a science fiction movie, and they didn't know how to react for the time being. The speed of Jia Yan's wings. Faster. Yin 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 yin. Just in the camera lens, the figure of the big mosquito suddenly disappeared. Oh my God, where has he gone? The female anchor screamed. Then, all she saw was that her eyes went dark. On the camera screen, a monster with a huge wingspan flew directly in front of the camera. This monster deliberately crossed in front of the helicopter and was directly in front of the camera, showing off its figure. Arrogant. Domineering. Anyway, everything has been exposed. In this way, Jia Yan went to Shiyuan to announce his declaration to the entire world, I am here. Since countless humans are searching for clues about him, and countless humans are looking to photograph him, Jia Yan is no longer secretive. If you want to see it, let me show it to your pleasure. In front of the camera lens, the monster's head kept zooming in, zooming out, and zooming in again, which directly caused the female anchor in the live broadcast to suddenly turn pale and scream in terror. Jia Yan was so fast that the police and self-defense force personnel had no time to react. When he came to his senses, he realized that this big mosquito monster was already very fast. Flying in front of the interview helicopter. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 148. Please subscribe for genuine subscription. When Jia Yan was completely hovering outside the helicopter, the countless bullets that were shot on the clot on the surface of his exoskeleton began to slowly fall off. Clot is a very magical substance. This substance is extremely tough. Perhaps it shouldn't be described as extremely high, but should be described as extremely high, extremely high, extremely high. A flurry of bullets were slowly squeezed out of the body by the clot, and then fell from the body surface. It was like rain, falling one by one into the sea water below, making a crisp ding-dong sound. The big mosquito is suspended outside the helicopter door. His head was pointed directly at the camera lens. The faint and cold compound eyes, the long and ferocious blood-sucking mouthparts, and the bright red color of the body surface stained with human blood. All this can be seen clearly by the Japanese people in front of the TV. The giant mosquito showed off his figure without concealment. The police and self-defense forces below did not dare to shoot and attack because the giant mosquitoes were flying near the interview helicopter. What's more, even shooting is useless. Didn't you see that this monster is invulnerable? There is simply no way. Jia Yan appeared in front of the camera for just a moment. After a few seconds, his wings continued to spread. Fly. Yin yin yin. The big mosquito spread its wings, showed its body towards the front of the beach, and walked away. Extremely fast. The camera kept filming, which really showed that the cameraman was a good employee who was dedicated to his duties, but the intense trembling in the picture still showed his inner excitement. The camera keeps following, watching the big mosquito flying away in the distance. Dear viewers, have you seen it? This is the true face of the giant mosquito. He didn't attack this machine just now. What does this mean? We can only wait for the results of the experts' discussion. Now switch the screen back to the live broadcast room and take a look at the views of the host and military experts. The female anchor forced herself to finish these words. When the screen switched to the live broadcast room, she couldn't bear it anymore. He collapsed directly. His face was extremely pale. Not only her, but the entire crew in the helicopter was like this, a total of 5 or 6 people, all of them were terrified. That moment just now. These people all feel the threat of death. That flying monster can kill people. They can even see clearly. Mosquito monster, with its sharp bleeding front legs. If you were stabbed by that front foot, it would definitely not be a joke. Good thing. This mosquito monster just hovered in front of the helicopter. Then left. Hey, there's a helicopter flying in from a distance, it's a self-defense force aircraft, the crew discovered the belated support. But it was all over, these armed helicopters arrived. It has no effect at all. And when people were not paying attention, the mosquito monster that should have gone away actually circled in a distant place. Fly back close to the ground. After taking the computer bag hidden in the shelter of the reef, I unfolded my body again, as if a dragon ascended to the sky and soared in the sky. The destination of Jia Yan's flight this time is directly the hinterland of Japan. The terrain of Wa Island is relatively northerly, similar to the north of China. The northernmost part of Wa Island is even colder than most of the northern areas of China. Therefore, Jia Yan's stay here is destined not to last long. After all, this is contrary to his original idea. The place with too low temperature is really not suitable for him to spend the winter. The giant mosquito spreads its wings and flies in the air. After growing to a body of 1 meter, Jia Yan discovered that his strength had not improved even a little bit. It definitely matched the description of the giant mosquito, and even more consistent with his own imagination. First, he traveled thousands of miles that he had never imagined before. In 1 day and 1 night, he actually flew more than 4,000 kilometers. At this time last night, he was still in Tumen, a border city in northern China. At this moment today, he actually flew to his hometown in the south of China, then flew across the sea, fought with Daewon fighter planes, and finally reached the border of Japan. Then there was another battle. In this battle, he took countless bullets, but so far, he is still intact. My fighting ability and survival ability have finally reached this point. Even before this, I never imagined that my mosquito body would be able to dominate the world one day. But now it seems that this wish is really not very good. Far away. Jia Yan felt an inexplicable emotion in his heart, as if he had an impulse to mourn. But the giant mosquito endured it, because even if he couldn't bear it, he didn't have the organs to make him cry in grief. A powerful mosquito, a mosquito with a strong heart, a mosquito with human wisdom, all these are the characteristics of Jia Yan. But there is another characteristic among these characteristics, that is, he is also a mosquito with feelings. Although he is extremely strong, sometimes his heart is touched inexplicably, and there are still fragile places. The stronger a person is, in fact, there is always a fragile glass heart hidden under the strong appearance. Even though Jia Yan successfully reached this level of strength, during this period he suffered pain that ordinary people could not imagine. Loneliness, lack of confidence, worry, fear, every time he suffered, there was no outsider to cheer him up, and there was no external reason to help him. He had to grit his teeth and endure it every time. The hardships and bitterness in it are really not for outsiders. After reaching this point, Jia Yan looked back and thought about the hardships along the way. The mood was ups and downs, just for a moment, even though he thought so much and felt so sad. When he came back to his senses, he was still flying alone in the sky, still suffering alone. So after this moment, Jia Yan's eyes were dim and firm again, and the softness and sensibility in his heart were deeply buried. Fly, fly, fly. Yin 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 yin. The giant mosquito is in the air and very fast. Fly far away. The big mosquito monster has left, but the noise and bustle he left behind has not yet begun. Just like the 3 giant monsters that China notified the world, the world media did not expect that just a few days later, Japan once again informed the world media that a giant mosquito monster appeared in the country. This giant mosquito was invulnerable and even kill humans. The world's media are in an uproar again. The appearance of 3 giant monsters in China has put the entire human world in an extremely sensitive situation. Now that this giant mosquito monster has appeared, the whole world, whether in the media or on the internet, is filled with one voice. Is this series of monster incidents not individual incidents, but a sign of some big event? Monsters are about to attack the Earth? This is not a guess or a conjecture, but a fact that is about to happen. In the war between humans and monsters, the balance of victory and defeat, the Earth will lose. Countless articles appeared in media newspapers and on the internet. Some of these articles are so imaginative and unconventional that they are almost the same as those in science fiction movies. You could make a movie based on them. But some are more pragmatic. After contacting many scientific experts, fantasy scientists, and some authoritative reasoning people, they publish more rigorous articles. Such articles are generally more credible. But human beings still believe in that kind of nonsensical speculation. Some people support it, and those articles on mysterious doctrines naturally appear in public. As a result, the whole world has once again entered into some delusions and suspicions. Don't talk about impossibility. In fact, human beings have been susceptible to the influence of others since ancient times. Otherwise, how could there be such things as the 2012 Mayan doomsday prophecy, the 1999 Nostradamus terrible devil prophecy, etc.? Are there any predictions about the end of the world due to the millennium bug, etc.? Each of these predictions were horrifying statements made when modern science was relatively developed, but countless people believed them every time. Some people even stockpile a large amount of goods before the end of the world because of such remarks. For example, in the so-called 2012 doomsday, some governments built shelter facilities in order to avoid the end of the world. How many people have committed suicide because of these doomsday remarks? Those vague prophecies of fools can attract the attention of the entire human social phenomenon. But now these living monsters are standing in front of the screen. Similar remarks are even more popular. In almost a short time, they have gained a lot of attention. A large number of die-hard fans are paying attention. Many people believe this, and many people despise it. It is not unreasonable for humans to stand on this planet and become the ruler for so long. The so-called prophecies and disaster statements in the past have not destroyed mankind. It can be seen that many things are just self-deception. This time only a few monsters appeared. These monsters may be relatively powerful individually, but compared to the huge number of humans, they are just small waves and cannot shake the foundation of human beings. Those who are disdainful will still be disdained. And those who believe in war rhetoric will still believe it. At the very center of the discussion, in a small city on the border, on this day, the Iron Gate of the Tumen City Criminal Police Team's Case Handling Center opened. The man and woman who walked out of the door were so dazzled by the dazzling sunlight that they couldn't help but raise their hands to block the light. Mr. Zhang Shiming, Miss Yetongyu, hello. I am a reporter from Xinhua Summer News, and this is my business card. A woman in formal attire stood in front of them. She handed over her business card. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 149. Second update coming. The woman's face is relatively ordinary, but she has a certain bearing that makes people involuntarily like her. The 2 college student children who had just been transferred from the army to the police equipment and were just released were picked up by this woman before they had time to express their feelings about life. I know everything about you. Have you always been very curious about that big mosquito and want to take a photo of him? Sitting in the vehicle in which the woman was riding, the woman asked 2 college students. There was someone else driving the car, and then there was a man in the car. Although he was tall, he did not look like a police or military personnel. Jiang Ximing and Ye Tongyu had a lot of trouble before, posting the entire series of battles between the army and the Mosquito on the internet. As a result, until now, some good people are spreading the blocked videos and posts in private. This matter involved the military's strict deployment in that factory area, but these two children exposed it. This was a bit too much, so the two of them were detained in the military and police case handling centers for so many days. Today, this woman came to mediate and they were brought to light. This kind of thing can be big or small. If the woman hadn't come here, it might have been possible to be sentenced to a few years. Of course, she would not talk about this kind of thing, she just hoped that the two children would discover it by themselves. Yes, we were once saved by a giant mosquito, so we want to make his true appearance known to the public. Two college students, a man and a woman, looked at each other and then said almost in unison. This matter has gone from their initial playful attitude to such a big fuss that it has almost become a personal demon for both of them. You once said in your post that that big mosquito might be the one that saved you. But you also described in your original post that the large mosquito that saved you was only a few centimeters long with its wings spread. It was no more than 30 centimeters. But your subsequent post also said that the large mosquito found in the video was nearly 30 meters long. 20 centimeters, the wingspan is half a meter. Since there is such a big difference, why do you still think they are the same one? The woman asked with a smile. Actually, this question. It was the woman who helped two college students to mediate from the police. Reasons to bring them out? The perspective on their posts is very unique. This is not nonsense. Ye Tongyu, as the editor and publisher of the post, took a deep breath and explained to the woman with a slight smile. Although she didn't know why the two of them were suddenly released. But her intuition told her that it was probably the middle-aged woman in front of her. A little helps. So I have to explain it well to others. When we were first rescued by this mosquito, we saw the big mosquito twice. At that time, we could roughly tell that it was a male Anopheles sinensis, Ye Tongyu said. The woman opened the notebook she carried with her. Then click on a picture, which is a male Anopheles sinensis mosquito. It's just an ordinary sized Anopheles sinensis mosquito. She turned the screen towards the girl. After seeing Ye Tongyu nodded, he turned the computer back to his direction. The girl continued, then the mosquito continued to get bigger. That was when we saw its shadow on the TV media. After we saw the widely circulated picture, we judged that this mosquito might be serious. It's the one that saved us. Because although his appearance has changed, many people can no longer tell that he was once a male Anopheles sinensis, but we once witnessed him when he was a few centimeters in size. Through comparison, we can see some of his changing trends. This is related. Ye Tongyu is right. Jia Yan's appearance at the age of more than 20 centimeters, if most humans did not mention it, it would be difficult to see the unique appearance of Anopheles sinensis. But as someone who has seen his appearance when he was a few centimeters long, he can roughly tell what his appearance was like when he was only a few centimeters long from what he looked like when he was 20 centimeters long. You can vaguely see which parts have changed. It was this change that made two students boldly guess that this 20-centimeter mosquito was the one that saved them. The middle-aged woman clicked on the picture on the screen again, and clicked on the picture of the big mosquito saving the little girl that went crazy on the Chinese internet and TV media. She turned the screen to the two students and asked, "Can you see how he has changed?" Okay, Ye Tongyu and Jiang Ximing looked at each other, and then said, "First of all, his body has become much larger, which goes without saying. And here, the feet have become thicker in the same proportion. Here, the abdomen has also become bigger. It's much harder, and the outer shell seems a little distorted. But a few centimeters of traces of the past can still be seen. There are also his mouth parts, which seem to have changed a bit compared to when we first saw them. In addition, there are those gelatinous objects on the body surface. It seems that they were there in the few centimeters era, but there are not so many. Zhang Shiming added. Next to him rode. As someone who has become a comrade with Jia Yan, he has a clearer view of the giant mosquitoes of a few centimeters of age. Moreover, he is a biology major, so he is naturally more professional in description. A male and a female college student pointed at the big mosquitoes in the picture and pointed out the changes one by one. Haha, very good. Then take a look at this picture again. Is it also him? When the woman holding the laptop continued to click on another picture. Ah! How is that possible? This is. That's right, the two college students were completely cut off from outside sources of information while in custody. They had no idea what was going on with the commotion and noise caused by the mosquitoes in the Japanese country on the other side of the ocean. What the woman clicked on was a high-definition picture of Jia Yan flying close to the interview helicopter's camera lens and captured by the camera. In this moment of their lives, the two of them actually had the illusion that a day in the mountains, a year in the outside world. It looks like a big mosquito, but its appearance has changed a lot. How big must it be? It was actually caught in the middle of the camera. There seemed to be blood splattered all over him. The two of them suddenly didn't know what happened and didn't know what was wrong. Not only were these two people at a loss, but even the people who had been paying attention to Jia Yan, the big mosquito, were also a little at a loss. Netizens from China and Japan have begun to bicker with each other. Some netizens here in China said that the big mosquito came from China's past. Japanese netizens are saying, the one you China found was just a small mosquito. Ours is a 1-meter-long super mosquito, which is not even afraid of bullets. Why are you China like this? Even if you find a mosquito, you will snatch it away. Chinese netizens are crying without tears. We are not a country of Obama, so we will not point to the sun and say that we discovered the sun. Everyone in the world has to pay us royalties. It's just that the big mosquito in your Japanese country is too similar to the one that appeared in China. Haven't you seen the photos of the one in China? Except for being bigger and slightly changed in shape, the one in your country is simply an enlarged version. The Japanese country didn't care about that much. In short, this monster was the first to be notified by the Japanese country. In fact, the atmosphere is also strange. The original intention of the netizens was not to even grab the right of discovery. It's just that some netizens in China felt that the giant mosquito that Japan reported to the world was very similar to the one that appeared in China. Originally, some netizens who knew Japanese were just discussing it on the Japanese website, but it turned into a debate. Compared with ordinary people, high-level people in various countries around the world are more concerned about monsters that appear several times. It attaches great importance to. A team of experts and scholars divided into several waves and first rushed to the border area of China, where they continued to pay attention and investigate the three huge monsters that had disappeared. As for the Japanese country, several teams from all over the world rushed to the Japanese country on the third day when the murderous giant mosquito appeared, and were conducting research on the reasons for the emergence of the giant mosquito and its future direction. And at this time, a piece of news from Daewon attracted widespread attention. Accompanying this news was a set of pictures taken from the perspective of a fighter plane. The giant mosquito actually came from China, and could even fly across the sea and directly to the land of Japan. This is not only a giant invulnerable mosquito, but also a monster with the ability to fly across the ocean. He also had a close combat with an F-16, a fighter jet produced in the Stars and Stripes country, and even damaged the fighter jet. More analysis reports on the combat effectiveness of giant mosquitoes have been placed in many institutions and even passed on through the internet. In addition to being able to fight off fighter jets, he also destroyed an armored vehicle. The world-famous sniper rifle, the super-long sniper rifle that can shoot down concrete pillars with one shot, cannot harm it even one bit. This is not a giant mosquito. It should be fighting mosquitoes, right? Everyone who saw the relevant data was stunned. Compared with the defense and combat power, the giant mosquito's weird and huge body was not important. For this fighting power, lions and tigers are very different. In other words, there are basically no such awesome creatures on the earth. Of course, we must get rid of the three monsters also found in China. These monsters appear almost at the same time. What does it mean? When something goes wrong, there must be a monster. Nothing big will really happen on this earth. People were in a solemn mood. Compared with these people, two killers who finally escaped were drifting on a medium-sized boat. At the same time, they were watching the news online in disbelief. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 150. The third update is completed. Please support Bulletin U by subscribing to Genuine Books. Book lovers who subscribe to Genuine Books are proud and great in their hearts, and they are good friends with Bulletin U. Haha, please subscribe. This is a small boat with a cabin. Although it is only a medium-sized boat, it has sufficient living facilities and advanced equipment. It is a small boat that can travel across the ocean. Such a small boat is worth a lot of money, and I don't know where the two killers got it. At this time, two killers were sitting in the boat. One had his arm wrapped in gauze, and the other had a bandage on his leg. They looked like they were seriously injured. But at this time, the two of them did not pay attention to their injuries. The two of them were staring at the TV screen that came with the boat, which was showing Japanese programs. The scene of the giant mosquito swooping towards the helicopter camera was replayed over and over again. The host of the TV show and the visiting guests all looked serious as they discussed the origins of the giant mosquito monster and the performance in this coastal battle. That's right, Japan has already issued a more official name for this battle, which is the Battle of the Coast. There are so many hotspots in this battle. First of all, this battle is the first major bandit suppression scene that the Japanese country has encountered in so many years. During the battle, not only a large number of police personnel were dispatched, but also members of the self-defense forces came to the rescue from afar. These people carried light armored vehicles and some heavy weapons. But in this battle, there was no achievement. Yes, nothing accomplished. Just facing those 8 masked gangsters, the members of the Japanese self-defense forces, who were supposed to be part of the national war machine, did not show the overwhelming strength they should have. Join forces with the police and not even kill a single enemy. The real cause of death of those gangsters has been found out. They all died at the feet of the giant mosquito monster. 1 or 2 are said to be due to chance factors, but they are all like this. That's a bit surprising. The giant mosquitoes did not attack self-defense forces and police personnel. Just attack gangsters? What is the reason for this? Do giant mosquitoes really have intelligence? After all, people have already seen such a terrifying creature, and now even if they are told, this monster also possesses extremely powerful intelligence. That's not something unacceptable. Of course, if such a monster really had any words of wisdom, that would be a very scary thing. However, the two killers no longer had the intention to pay attention to what they were discussing. They were just stunned, thinking about the whole thing. The two of them wanted to save everyone in the Geo family. So he stopped the mercenary gang and even admitted it. It was the father and son Yu Tao and Yu Yuan who they killed. After that, the leader of the mercenary team, that is, Yu Long, directly launched a desperate attack on them. Then they fled. In order to stay away from the sight of those madmen, he even took a boat to the southern part of the Japanese country. That is Gonki County. However, I didn't expect that these people had so many ears and eyes that they actually followed the clues. Found the Japanese country. The disparity between the enemy and ourselves is too great, and they are no longer connected with the organization. They can't get any foreign help. At that time, I remember it was a young man wearing glasses, the killer with a beard who always called Xiaoao, suddenly asked for help from the mysterious senior Chang Gwen. Bearded man for help. Later, it was said that that senior wanted to verify something, and they had to endure several more injuries. And that senior said it would take about 10 hours to arrive. At that time, they were almost all desperate. They thought that the senior was unreliable and that he was just deceiving them. But unexpectedly, they managed to hold on, and when 10 hours passed, the savior really appeared. But the savior is not a mysterious master as they imagined. In fact, this savior is really mysterious, so mysterious that it is being discussed all over the world. And he is indeed a master. The master was so invulnerable that he physically fought against fighter jets and armored vehicles, and even won. But this is completely different from the senior master that the two killers thought of, isn't it? Well, the nickname of the senior's QQ account is called Chang Gwen. Is that what it means? What is the relationship between him and this giant mosquito monster? The young man wearing glasses sat on the sofa in the cabin of the boat and watched. The TV set across from me continues to amaze. Now that I think about it, there are really a lot of doubts about this senior, such as Kong Wen's nickname and his refusal to show up. He also said he would arrive in 10 hours, but what arrived was a terrifying giant mosquito. This giant mosquito was so terrifying that it directly killed all 8 masked men who they were completely unable to fight against. On the way from China to Japan, I even had a fight with a fighter jet. He is really domineering, but is he really a senior? No matter how you think about it, it's impossible. What are you thinking about? I'll search online. The medium-sized boat was floating near an island with communication signals from the Japanese country. There happened to be a network, so the bearded man opened QQ on his mobile phone. Looking at it, the portrait of Chang Wen is actually on, unexpectedly. He's online, Beard's eyes lit up. The young man wearing glasses also had an excited expression, and then the two of them stared at the phone screen together. Jia Yan is indeed online at this time. It was already the second day of the battle from the coast. He spent a night and a day resting, and now that it was night again, it was naturally time to prepare for action. At this time, the giant mosquito's hiding place is on a small island with network signal. This small island is not very far from the main island of Japan. There are dozens of residents on the island. I didn't expect that such a small island also has mobile phone network. Even Jia Yan's Waxia internet card can access the internet. It's a surprise. Of course, when it comes to using a computer to surf the internet, we have to say that Jia Yan fought with a Daewon fighter the day before yesterday and even went diving with his computer bag for a while. When he turned it on just now, he was still worried whether the notebook would be damaged by water due to that dive. Fortunately, the laptop bag containing the laptop was made of waterproof material, and Jia Yan's diving time was very short, so the inside of the laptop bag was still very dry. No water has penetrated at all. It seems that the quality of domestic products. In fact, it is also very good. Although he didn't know how expensive it would be to access the internet abroad, Jia Yan still chose to use an internet card to access the internet after turning on the phone. At least search it. Maps of the entire Japanese kingdom and stuff like that. Although in his opinion, the Japanese country is just that big of a deal. He can fly around in one day, but he doesn't have much time to waste in this country. It's going to be winter soon, not to mention it doesn't like this country very much. The fight the night before. It is indeed soul-stirring. Not only was the whole world uproar, but also Jia Yan's own heart. It's also a lot more emotional. A little mosquito has grown to this point, he thought about it. They are all full of bitterness and pain. But those are the past. What Jia Yan needs is to look forward. Over a slow network. When I connected to the Chinese domestic media website, I saw that it was overwhelmingly filled with news related to him. Jia Yan discovered that he was a terrifying big mosquito. Finally, they were placed side by side with the three monsters that appeared in China. Before this, I'm afraid no one would put the giant mosquito, which is only 20 centimeters in size, together with the terrifying monster that reaches 2 meters in size. But now, Jia Yan, because of a series of battles, has established his identity as a terrifying monster, ranking alongside those three monsters. Of course, Jia Yan didn't feel happy either. He knew that he had nothing to do with the three monsters that had disappeared for a while. Maybe it doesn't matter, but it's still a bit wrong. Because I indirectly mutated into what I am now through the underground world, Jia Yan thought for a while and felt that maybe he and those monsters were somewhat similar. Of course, there is no conclusion yet on this matter, and Jia Yan will not spend too much thought on it. After reading a few articles and reports about himself, Jia Yan sneered in his heart and searched for the map of Japan again. There are so many articles speculating, but when Jia Yan looks at these lengthy articles, especially those relatively professional articles, they look like jokes to him, the person involved. Guess, you will die guessing anyway. Even if you can guess the process of my mutation, no matter how you guess, it is impossible to guess that I am actually a mosquito reborn as a human. Mount Fuji is at the border of Shizuoka Prefecture and Yamanashi Prefecture, almost more than 600 kilometers away from here. Jia Yan searched and found a map of Japan, and roughly estimated the distance between his island and Mount Fuji. If it's just over 600 kilometers, it would only take 3 or 4 hours for me to fly there. I just don't know if the Japanese will be wary of me because of yesterday's battle. If that's the case, even if I try to get there in the dark, it will also be more difficult. Jia Yan searched for knowledge about radar and the like again, and then realized that many military radars cannot detect low-altitude objects, because the software's error tolerance and misjudgment will be serious. Then fly over at low altitude. Anyway, they have already seen their figures. It doesn't matter even if the Japanese civilians see his figure once or twice. Even if those people turned around and went back to report their presence, that time was enough for me to fly far away. As long as they don't guess, it doesn't matter where your destination is. Of course, it's best if you can't be discovered. If that's the case, then I choose to set off around 3 in the morning and arrive at Mount Fuji, which is about 6 or 7 o'clock. At that time, human beings are sleeping the deepest. It should be less difficult to search for the location of the god object. Get in the way. Jia Yan's compound eyes were shining faintly, has made a decision. And at this moment, the QQ icon he had been hanging in the lower right corner suddenly flashed with the image of a handsome Obama from the country of Obama. Beep beep beep. Huh? These two guys are really fine. When Jia Yan saw this image, he just smiled and clicked on the message. He hung up QQ just to see if anything happened to these two killers. Fortunately, since there is news, it should be fine. Click to open the message. Unexpectedly, the first news from these two guys was a question that was difficult for Jia Yan to answer. Senior Zhang Wen, do you have anything to do with the giant mosquito yesterday? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 151. It makes sense for these two killers to ask this question. Jia Yan informed them earlier that he would arrive in 10 hours, but 10 hours later, it was a giant mosquito monster that rescued them. Anyone would be suspicious of this, right? Of course, it is impossible for these two killers to really suspect that Jia Yan is the big mosquito. Even if this thought had occurred to me, it would have been overturned immediately. After all, this guess is too fantasy. How could normal humans think like this? Jia Yan's compound eyes were leisurely, staring at the screen. To be honest, he wanted to deal with these two people for the last time and then go their separate ways and never meet again. Because there is no intersection, it would be impossible to tell them your details like this. Even if he and the two of them were in the same boat, how could Jia Yan explain his identity to them with such a small relationship? Let them continue to be confused. Thinking of this, Jia Yan directly typed 2 lines of words and sent them out. I must have something to do with that giant mosquito, otherwise why would he save you? As for what the relationship is, it's up to you to guess. Okay, that's all we have to say. There is nothing owed between the two parties. If anything happens in the future, please contact us again. Jia Yan conveniently closed QQ, and then smiled with a relaxed expression. For these two killers, it is now settled. No matter how much I owed them a favor in the past, but this time I saved them again, it was neither a gain nor a loss. Jia Yan knows his identity and it is really impossible to maintain a normal and friendly relationship with humans, so now it is considered an end to the relationship between these two people. If something happens in the future, let's talk about it later. On the small boat in the ocean, the two killers were stunned when they saw the news. Originally, I just wanted to tell my senior that I was safe. By the way, I would like to ask if the senior has anything to do with that giant mosquito. But what was waiting for him was these words that seemed to be the final conclusion. And after the seniors finished speaking, they immediately went offline. Oh, it's all you. Are we allowed to ask about the relationship between senior and giant mosquito? Our relationship hasn't reached that level yet. The bearded man's face darkened. In order to build a good relationship with their seniors, they even broke away from the organization, but now they find that senior mosquitoes don't seem to be willing to continue to have a close relationship with them. But the other party didn't say anything to death. At least leave a message to the other person next time something happens. There should still be a chance to get help. Yes, it's all me. The young man wearing glasses smiled bitterly and shook his head. There was nothing they could do about this mysterious senior. I originally thought the other party was very powerful. But now it is discovered that he is actually related to the terrifying giant mosquito that is being talked about all over the world. Now he feels even more mysterious about the other party. As for what the relationship is with giant mosquitoes, whether it belongs to the owner or something else, this is not something they can guess. Anyway, I just escaped from the tiger's mouth, plus recuperating and leaving the group. They are unlikely to accept any tasks for the time being, so even if they have to ask their seniors for help again, it will be a long time later. There is no need to think so much now. Both of them figured it out and lazily watched the TV show. But at this moment, the mobile phone of the young man wearing glasses rang. He frowned strangely and then pressed the answer button. Brother Xiaoao, what happened to the internet data card you asked me to apply for last time? I just checked the balance and it was almost all deducted. A man's voice came from the other side of the phone. The young man wearing glasses was startled, and then smiled bitterly. It seems that Senior Changwen actually brought a computer to this Japanese country for use. He remembered that he originally paid 3,000 yuan for the internet access fee. It's okay. I'll transfer 50,000 yuan to you. You go to the card. Don't talk nonsense and do it quickly. If he owes money in the future, just tell me directly, the young man wearing glasses said without any heartache. You must know that that is the card used by the savior. 50,000 yuan to exchange for his life is a great deal. What's more, with this matter, wouldn't it be possible to interact with the seniors again? Thinking of this, the corners of the bespectacled young man's mouth slightly curved into a smile. Jia Yan didn't know that the internet card he used consumed so much internet tariff. After all, he had never been abroad before. Although he knew that using an internet card to access the internet abroad would cost astonishingly high rates, he didn't expect it to be so exaggerated. If I knew it, I might even feel distressed. He didn't look at the web page all the time, but after checking some information about Mount Fuji and the route, he turned off the phone. On the quiet island, the big mosquito in the forest gradually fell into a deep sleep again as he listened to the slight swishing sound of the waves in his ears. Jia Yan is repairing his spirit. After all, the battle the day before was too exhausting, and coupled with the exhaustion of flying 4,000 kilometers continuously, he was really tired this time. However, it is precisely because of these experiences that Jia Yan can accurately position himself clearly now. Not strong, but extremely strong. It really broke away from the original image of a small mosquito and became a giant mosquito with a little ability to protect itself. It was a very comfortable sleep. Although it was a little cold, for Jia Yan who was protected by thick cloths, the cold was not unacceptable. Until the zenith of the moon, around 3 o'clock in the morning. The giant mosquito seems to have a biological clock in its brain and wakes up on time. What a good night's sleep. The dark and huge body slowly stood up among the trees, scraping the grass and trees to make a little noise. Swish swish. The waves not far away were still beating non-stop. Jia Yan stood up a little and moved his body to wake up his still sleepy mind. Leave the computer here and get it when you come back. Jia Yan looked around, stuffed the laptop bag with the computer into it, and carefully hid it deep in the bushes. Afterwards, Jia Yan looked at the full moon high in the sky. This is another relatively good weather. Jia Yan feels a little comfortable looking at the moon. It's time to take action. I remember that the weather forecast I searched on the internet said that it would be rainy in the interior of Japan. I just had to be careful where there was a moon when I flew there. When I arrived in a rainy place, there were even fewer people. The sky was just dark, making it impossible for most people to notice me. After Jia Yan thought about this, he spread his wings. Bang 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 bang. The wings flap slightly. Buzz buzz. The flapping speed increases. Buzz. Yin yin yin. Faster and faster, finally. This speed has reached a critical point. The giant mosquito has 6 long legs and slowly leaves the ground. Next moment. A huge flying creature with an impressive shape soared from the island's bushes. It's like a giant dragon ascending to the sky, leisurely ascending. Yin yin yin. Whoops. The noise lasted no more than a few seconds. Then it switched immediately and the sound suddenly became inaudible. Jia Yan changed the flight muscle angle. The vibrating wings turned into gliding, and then the sound of flying was very small. Updraft. Okay. Ride on it, flying in the air. Jia Yan's eyes lit up. He sensed a rising air convection not far away. This convection is exactly in the direction he wants to go. Jia Yan flew into this updraft very skillfully. Now Jia Yan only needed to spread his wings and ride on the airflow forward. Underfoot is the vast sea. But that's for humans. The absolutely vast and boundless sea seems to be nothing to Jia Yan now. After a non-stop flight of more than 4,000 kilometers, this terrifying giant mosquito had an intuitive understanding of its own flying ability and endurance. As early as yesterday, he had evaluated his body's flying ability. No ocean on the earth could convince him unless there was a very strong storm. 4,000 kilometers not only allowed me to exercise my physical fitness, but also substantially improved my flying skills. Now my endurance flight speed can be maintained at about 250 kilometers to 280 kilometers per hour. This it was already World War I, with some of the fastest fighter jets. Jia Yan was very satisfied with his flying speed. Although in theory, even if he improves his flying skills, as long as he doesn't undergo the next mutation, he probably won't be able to break through the limit of 300 kilometers of endurance, but even his current results are already extremely exaggerated. As for his instantaneous speed, it is difficult for Jia Yan to guess because there is no comparison object. Because his weight is much larger than that of seabirds of the same size, his instantaneous burst of speed becomes even more exaggerated when he speeds up. In short, the instantaneous speed exceeding 400 km per hour is definitely possible. Maybe the dive speed can exceed the instantaneous speed of 500 km per hour. If you insist on describing how fast the instantaneous speed of 500 km per hour is, then using the speed of sound as an analogy, you can get a rough comparison. The speed of sound in the air at normal altitude on the Earth is 340 meters per second, which is about 1,220 kilometers per hour. As for Jiayan's instant dive speed, if it could reach an exaggerated speed of 500 kilometers per hour, it would be close to half the speed of sound. With the weight of his current body and such speed, it flies past humans in an instant, and the strong wind it brings can knock humans down. If you hit a train, maybe the train body will fly off. Even the bullets fired by some old-fashioned firearms do not have this speed. Fear. But that's just Jiayan's theoretical maximum flight speed. The usual endurance speed is still around 250 kilometers. Although it is very scary, it is not an exaggeration. The giant Mosquito maintained this speed at this time and flew towards the sacred mountain of Japan, Mount Fuji. He went to this so-called sacred mountain to look for the gods in the sacred mountain to see if there was any chance. After the flight speed increased, Jiayan lowered his entire body and quickly reached an altitude of 5 or 6 meters close to the sea. The strong wind fanned by the wings stirred up the sea water below, making a constant sound of swishing. At this altitude, there is no need to worry about being detected by radar. Even some radars that survey fishing boats would think it was a seabird, or simply think it was an error in the radar software.